Sponsored by Rabbi Shlomi and Mirla Greenwald. This is a Sichos from Likutei Sichos, Chelek Beis, Parshas Metzora. And the topic of the Sichos is that in this week's Parsha we learned the pasuk at the very beginning of our Parsha of Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora B'Yom Ta'arasei, and we learn a Rashi on it. And there are 5 parts in the Sichos. The Rebbe will, number 1, explain the Rashi. Number 2, ask 3 questions on Rashi. Number 3, present the key to answering these questions, and the key is by presenting what is really bothering Rashi. Number 4, based on this, answer the 3 questions. And number 5, present the inyanim uflaim in halacha in this Rashi, and also the understanding of this discussion in pnimiyus inyanim. From the pasuk at the very beginning of our parsha of Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora B'Yom Ta'arasei Gomer, where it says V'huva Lakay, and it describes the Tyra of the Metzora. So Rashi quotes the words Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora V'Gomer, and he explains Melamed, it teaches us She'ein Metarin Oisei Balayla, that we can't make him tar at night. And the Mefarshim explain that the proof that the tire of the Metzora cannot be at night is from the word b'yom, which Rashi alludes to with v'gomer, because Rashi quotes Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora, and then he writes v'gomer, and he's alluding to the word b'yom, which this word is extra, and it's from this word b'yom that Rashi learns out melamed she'ein metarin oisa balayla. However, the Rebbe says it's difficult to say this for 2 reasons. Since number 1, Rashi quotes the words Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora. He doesn't quote the words B'Yom Ta'arasei, which these words don't relate to this point at all. And number 2, since the main word B'Yom he doesn't write and he only alludes to it. So for these 2 reasons, it's difficult to say that Rashi's basis is the word B'Yom, because the words that he quotes are different words. They're the words Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora, and the word B'Yom he doesn't quote, he only alludes to it. And because of this, therefore, we must say that the main way it's learned is actually from the words Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora. And it's just that they alone aren't enough, and therefore Rashi adds V'Gomer, since the word B'Yom, or the words B'Yom Ta'arasei, that completes the proof for his explanation. So that's how we have to understand Rashi, that the proof for the teaching of Rashi, that the tire of the Metzora cannot be done at night, is from the words Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora, mainly from those words, and it's just that that's not complete. The proof is not complete from those words, and you also need the words B'Yom Ta'arasei, and therefore Rashi writes V'Gomer to allude to those words. And there are 3 questions here. Number 1, why doesn't Rashi explain it simply that this teaching that the Torah can be done at night is learned from the word b'yom? And the question is especially since that's how it's explained in Teres Kehanim, and also that's what it seems like the explanation is in the Gemara. So why doesn't Rashi explain it this way as well, that we learn it very simply from the word b'yom, which b'yom means in the day and not in the night? The second question is, on the other hand, how is it learned from the words Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora? So we both have to understand why Rashi doesn't learn it from B'Yom, and we also have to understand, now that Rashi, for whatever reason, doesn't learn it from B'Yom, how does he learn it out from the words Zeis Tia Teres HaMetzora? How do those words teach us that the Torah can be done at night? And the third question is, why does Rashi add the word melamed? Why does Rashi start his teaching by saying melamed, it teaches us? Why doesn't he just say the teaching itself, ein metarim oisei balayla, we can't be metarim at night? So now we're going to present the key to the Sicha, and the key of the Sicha, as is very often the case, is that we're going to explain what exactly it is that's really bothering Rashi over here. And once we understand what's really bothering Rashi, then all of our questions on Rashi will be answered. So the explanation of all of this is as follows. What Rashi finds difficult in this pasuk is that the words Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora, they're all extra, because it's understood on its own that we're discussing a Metzora. Since this parsha comes in continuation to the previous parsha, which is Parshas Tazria, which talks about the dinim of the tumah of a Metzora. And so, when it says B'yom Taharasai, that's what it's obviously referring to. It's referring to the Taira of the Metzora that we just learned the dinim of his tumah. So since we just finished learning the dinim of the tumah of a Metzora, so when the pasuk says and talks about Yom Taharasai, obviously it's talking about the Taira of the Metzora. So why does the pasuk first have to say Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora? And that's the question that's bothering Rashi here, and that's what Rashi is coming to answer. And now we're going to move straight into answering the questions on Rashi. And so to answer this question of why does the pasuk say Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora, the words seem to be extra. So in order to answer this question, Rashi quotes the words Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora v'Gomer, and he explains Melamich Ein Metaran Isa Balayla. These words teach us, the reason they're written is because they teach us, as we'll see how in a moment, they teach us that we cannot make the Metzora tahor at night. But first we're going to answer the first question on Rashi, which was why doesn't Rashi explain it simply that it's learned from the word B'yom? It says B'yom, which means it's in the day and not the night. So the reason Rashi doesn't prove it from B'yom Tarasai is because in Pshuta Shel Mikra, which that's the way of the teachings of Rashi. Rashi teaches the Chumash in Pshuta Shel Mikra. So the word Yom in Pshuta Shel Mikra, when it's not said in the context of day as opposed to night, and it's just said plainly, so the word Yom doesn't negate the night, but rather it refers to the whole 24-hour period. And like it says, Vayi Erev Vayi Boker, talks about the Erev and the Boker, the whole 24-hour period, Yom Echad, and then it says Yom Sheni, all the way to Yom Hashishi. And so too it says, Sheishes Yomim Gamer, Uvayom Hashvi Tishbais, you should rest on the seventh day. And it means you have to rest on the whole 24-hour period of the seventh day. And furthermore, we find the word Yom regarding an event that occurred at night. As it says, B'yom hakaisi kol b'char be'eretz Mitzrayim, on the day that I struck all the b'charim in the land of Mitzrayim. And we know that Makas B'charis was b'chatzi alayla. And so this proves to us that the word Yom, even when it's extra, as it is in our pasuk, and also in the pasuk B'yom hakaisi kol b'char be'eretz Mitzrayim, it's extra, because it could have said B'hakaisi kol b'char be'eretz Mitzrayim. So even when it's entirely extra, it doesn't negate the night, but rather it means the whole 24-hour period. And that's why Rashi doesn't prove from B'yom that the Torah can't be at night. However, the extra words, Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora, those extra words teach us, Melamed, that B'yom Tarasai means specifically in the day and not the night. So Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora, we'll see how in a moment. They are melamed. They teach us that when it says B'yom Taharasai, in our pasuk the word B'yom means in the day and not in the night. But we don't learn it from the word B'yom. We learn it from the words Zois Tia Teres. They teach us that the word B'yom means in our pasuk the day and not the night. How do they teach this to us? Because all of these words are words of diuk, of being very specific. And their job is to emphasize. What they do is they emphasize the matter about which they are discussing and negate the opposite. How do we see this? Because Zois refers to something clear and specific. Zois, this. And like Rashi indeed explains on Zois Eis Habris, and also on HaChodesh Hazeh, where the word Zeh is the Zachar version of Zois. When it comes to Tia, Tia means B'havayasa Tehei. It should be as it is, exactly as it is. And Teiras means the instruction of dinim of exactly how to do something. Teiras is the dinim of something. The dinim tell us precisely and exactly how to do something. So these three words are words of diuk, to tell us that something has to be done in a very specific way. And from this it's understood that what's written afterwards, which is the word B'yom Tarasai, it's with exactness and it's purposeful. And so therefore, B'yom in our pasuk teaches us that it can't be done at night. And according to this, it's understood, Rashi quotes the words Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora, why he quotes those words and not biyom. It also now is understood why Rashi only hints to the word biyom with v'geimer, because it's the words Zeis, Tia, and Teiras that are the main words. They are the ones that Rashi has a question on, and they are the ones that teach us about the following word, which he just hints to, that it means that it should be done exactly as it's written here, which is Yom and not the night. And also why Rashi says Malamed, because those three words, they teach about a different word. They teach about the word Yom, that it means specifically in the day and not the night. Now we're going to answer a side question. Based on this, we're going to see how there's a question that's asked on Rashi that's answered. According to this, the question Mefarshim ask on our Rashi is answered very simply. Mefarshim ask, why do we need a special teaching to tell us she'ein metar and oisei balaylo, that we can't be metar the Metzora at night, but it can't be at night anyway? We already know it can't be at night, since one of the parts of the Torah of the Metzora is to bring a carbon, and a carbon may not be brought at night, as it's taught in Teres Kanim on the pasuk b'yom tzavaisei, that all carbonas have to be b'yom in the day and not the night. So of course the Torah of the Metzora cannot be at night, since one of the parts of his Torah is the bringing of a carbon, and a carbon can't be brought at night. But according to what we said, that in Pshuta Mikra, so this is going to answer the question. But according to what we said, that in Pshuta Mikra, the word Yom doesn't negate the night, so there's no question at all. Because according to Rashi on the Torah, we can't prove from the pasuk of B'yom Tzavaisei that a carbon may not be brought at night, because the word Yom doesn't negate the night. And this is in addition to the main point that in Pshuta Mikra, the pasuk of B'yom Tzavaisei is actually not talking about the actual bringing of karbonos. It's actually referring to the day he was commanded to bring karbonos, and it has nothing to do with the actual act of bringing karbonos. And so this question that Mefarshim ask, it falls away on its own very simply according to what we just explained in Rashi about the word Yom, that the word Yom doesn't mean Yom and not night, but rather it means the whole 24-hour period. And according to this, it will be answered another question, which is why in Gemara, when they learned that the tiresome Metzora is kosher the whole day, from Zeis Tia tiresome Metzora b'yom taharasai, so Rashi explains it means b'tziparim, ve'etz erez, ve'ezav, ushnisei las. He mentions the different parts that are involved in the Torah of the Metzora. So Rashi says that these are the parts that we're learning that the Torah could only be done in the day. And there are three questions over here. Number one, that's what tiresome Metzora means. Why does Rashi have to tell it to us? Number two, why doesn't he mention the karbonos of the Metzora? He mentions Siparim, Eitz Erev, Eizav, Ushnis Alas. What about the karbonos? And number three, he should have said it on the Mishnah. Why is he only saying it here on the Gemara? But according to what we just explained, it's answered because Rashi is coming to answer the above question, which is, why do we need a special teaching that B'yom Ta'arasai means that it's only in the day? We learned it from B'yom, if an halacha, because this is in Gemara, so in Gemara, which is the way of learning of halacha, so in halacha, one may not bring karbonos at night, as it says B'yom Tzavaisei. In halacha, we do learn it out from B'yom Tzavaisei. And so if it's already learned from B'yom Tzavaisei, why do we need a separate teaching about the Torah of the Metzora? The Torah of the Metzora includes in it a carbon, and karbonos can be brought at night. And so therefore Rashi is medayik that the teaching from B'yom Tarasai is not for the karbonos. For that we already know. We know that from B'yom Tzavaisei. But rather for the other things that we can't learn out from B'yom Tzavaisei. So that's why he writes these specific parts of the Torah, Tziparim, Eitz Erev, Eizav, Ushnis Alas, it's for this and not the karbonos. And he says it here and not in the Mishnah, because it's over here that the question comes up. Why do I need a special teaching? We already know the Torah can't happen at night, since the Torah includes a carbon, and karbonos could only be brought in the day. So Rashi says it's needed for these specific parts of the Torah. From the Inyanim of Floim in Halacha, in our Rashi, the teaching that the Tiresome Metzora has to be in the day is learned in the Gemara and in Teras Kanim in the positive side. What it says over there is, it teaches us that its time is in the day, the positive, that it has to be in the day. Whereas in Rashi, it's learned in the negative. Rashi says, Melamed, it teaches us that it may not be done at night. And the nafkamina and halacha between these two different ways of whether we say it has to be in the day or we say that it may not be done at night is when the Torah extended into a time that isn't day and it isn't night, which is the time of Bein Hashmoshes. The day already ended because the sun set, but the night didn't yet begin because the three stars are not yet seen. So in such a case, when the Torah extended into Bein Hashmoshes, which is a time that isn't day and it isn't night, so then according to the Gemara and the Teras Kanim, it won't count as a Torah, because the Torah has to be in the day, and this isn't the time of the day. Whereas according to Rashi, it will count as a Torah, because we only learned that it can't be done at night, and Bein Hashmoshes is not night. And the reason for this difference, that the Gemara and Teras Kanim say it in the positive, and Rashi says it in the negative, is as follows. Because we learned earlier that in Halacha, which is the way the Gemara and Teras Kanim work, the word Yom means specifically day and not night. And so since it says B'Yom Taharasei, the day, it's understood that it must be in the day. Whereas in Derech HaPshat, which is the way of Rashi, where the word Yom means the whole 24-hour period, and it's just that the other extra words of Zois Tia Teiras, the other extra words of the pasuk teach us otherwise, that over here it's not the whole 24-hour period, then it's enough to just remove it to the barest minimum, to say that it's not the whole 24-hour period, but rather it excludes the night. It's enough to just exclude the night, because if you have a teaching that something doesn't mean what it otherwise means, you only remove it to the minimal. You don't have a clear indication that it should be taken to the other extreme entirely. And so if the word Yom means the 24-hour period, and we have a teaching that over here, that's not what it means, so then all we're going to say is that it excludes the night. And so therefore, as long as it's not the nighttime, it will be a time that you could do the Torah of the Metzora. And so the Torah could extend even to Bein Hashmoshes. Regarding understanding this whole matter in Pnimis and Yanim, so the explanation for why the words Zois Tia Teres Metzora come before Parshas Teres Metzora, even though we said that these words seem to be extra, because we know we're talking about the Teres Metzora. So it's explained in Likutei that Metzora is Moitzi Shemra, which means that he is Moitzi Mamshech the Shemus of Klippa. And therefore, what is his tikkun? His tikkun is through Asik HaTorah, which the Torah the Torah is the shemus of kedusha. As a result, say Kol Torah Kula Shmeisav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The whole Torah are the shemus of Hashem, and so since he is Moitzi Shemra, he is Moitzi Umamshech the shemus of Klippa. So his tikkun is to be Moitzi the shemus of kedusha, and that's why it says Zois Tia Teres Metzora at the beginning of Parshas Teres Metzora. Because the main tikkun of the Metzora is not what it says afterwards, V'huva elakayin gamer, but rather through Asik HaTorah, Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora, which transforms the Shem Ra to Shem Tov, because Torah is the Shem Tov, and it's through Asik HaTorah that the Metzora has its main tikkun. And it's just that in order that the Teres HaMetzora should be done properly, meaning that his Asik HaTorah should be with Bittul, because specifically when the Asik HaTorah is with Bittul, does it affect the tikkun for the Metzora. So in order that the Asik HaTorah, which that is the true tikkun, in order that it should be done properly, there needs to be V'huva elakayin, because the kayin, the job of the kayin is that he draws down the Eir Abba, which is the Eir of Chachma, which that is the whole Indian of Bittul. So the kayin is only there in order that the main tikkun, which is the Asik HaTorah, should be done in an effective way. And so that's why the first thing it talks about it in the beginning of the parsha is Zois Tia Teres HaMetzora, because that's his real tikkun. And it's just that he needs this added ingredient that the Asik HaTorah should be with Bittul, and that's why the other things are there, because that's what brings the Bittul into the Torah, so that the Torah should be effective as a tikkun for the Metzora.